I founded Budderfly, this Budderfly model, probably about 6 years ago in the energy space. It's a hot topic, as I think many of you know. I'm going to try to, in a very short period of time, maybe give you a perspective on the importance of the energy model in your businesses right now. Just to give you a feel for Budderfly, when I founded it, we were about 3 people. We're about 230 people. We've raised about $500 million. And we're growing at about 100% a year. We're over 110 million in revenue in a short 5 years. And that's more a testament, I think, to the model and our customers than it is us. But I'm putting some credibility behind, I think, some of the comments that I'd like to make for all of you. And just so you know, we focus primarily on your industry. A couple comments. So I founded Budderfly. I'm not from the energy space. And I'm at a point I brag about that now. And the reason is because we give a fresh perspective. There are a bunch of things in the market that bother me a lot. Number one, the amount of money that you spend is high, first of all. It's a big expense on your P&L. And I'll get a lot of head shaking, depends on the brands. And we have 35 brands today. So we've got experience in the small QSRs, large QSRs, even casual dining. And really, it ranges throughout the country, okay? Matter of fact, I've got an interesting slide here. I'll bounce around a little bit. This will give you a little bit of a perspective of some of our customers and experience for the average spend per year. So I'm going to talk about green, and green has 2 meanings. Green is money in your pocket, and green is also how much carbon we pull out of the air. What bothered me the most about this marketplace, really drove me kind of crazy, is there is about a 30 to 40% takeout that's available for all of you. And when I talk about green, green is the exact equivalent of carbon and money. It's the way we set our model up. So you can choose the one that's important to you or just take them both. I did that on purpose because we wanted to save the world and save you a lot of money at the same time. What bothers me is that people are sitting on roughly an opportunity to drive your cost down in that category 40%. And yet I ask myself the question, why don't you do it? Now, there might be 1 or 2 people that have done a lot here, but it's going to be a small amount because we have been on more roofs in this country than any company in the business. I've personally been up on roofs myself, and I've seen the state of general equipment in this market. It sort of drove me crazy that you collectively had not addressed it, but I understand completely why. So we built a model to go capture that without almost you lifting a finger or putting your hand in your pocket to make an investment. And I'm going to tell you how we did that. To me, it's quite simple, okay? I don't know why no one else did it this way, but we did. For us, it took having a lot of money. So we've raised a lot of money, and we have a lot of money to do what we do. I'm going to tell you some war stories around that. To address the spend, this average spend on an annual basis on electricity doesn't even include gas. Add about another 5 to 20% for gas, and we're about ready to add water the second half of this year. So a couple things I want to share with you. First of all, I'm going to try to answer the question, why haven't, and when I say you, don't take that personally, all right? I mean you collectively, the industry. Why has the industry not addressed the opportunity, all right? I boil it down to 4 real basic reasons, okay? Number 1, there's about 50 different things you could do to address sustainability and energy management. I'm going to give you some categories later and some details. But for now, just to satisfy what you're wondering, it could be a commodity, something as simple as an LED light. Or it could be as complex as a series of IoT devices in your operation that are changing loads based on a demand curve in California when they're about ready to have a blackout. And everywhere in between, 50 different things. Every one of those things, you have to approve a budget. Okay, there's more to pay over time today than there used to be, but most of these items, you have to write a check, a capital expenditure. For example, a brand new HVAC unit that sits on your roof. for $15,000, $20,000 per. And you would prefer not to because you would rather go buy a cooking appliance, etc. So what do? You patch it. That's essentially what's happened in this industry. So two things. 50 different things is daunting for you to be an expert. I've got 230 people worrying about this every day, and believe me, we work our tail off to stay ahead of it on a daily basis. Never mind you who are trying to be in the food business, okay? Which is this term of outsourcing that I'm gonna share with all of you. So, too many things, and everyone requires a CapEx or an expense, which I get it. We're gonna slow down on that. Let's go buy a new compressor, let's patch it, let's make it last a little bit longer, okay? The third thing, nobody measures anything in the energy space. We get a bill. You all get bills? Do you look at the bill? Some of you do, some of you don't. It is the most complicated document ever designed by people kind. It is. I'm going to give you one example. If you were to create a bill to send to you, you all have accounting? Do you do accounting? Do you have an accounting month? Do you open like January? How did you do in January, February, March? Do you run your business that way? Most accounting systems do. You don't get a bill from the utility that does that. They do it on a number of days, and it depends when they decided to read the meter. That's their issue. So now you get a bill this year in August. It's really July 21st to August 15th, and last year it was July 28th to August 13th. It can range anywhere from 21 days to 33 days. Think about that. How do you compare that bill? So you don't. Therefore, because you do not measure anything, if I'm the CFO of your organization, I'm sort of wondering if I ought to be writing those checks for the things that this guy Al up here is talking about, right? Because you're not exactly sure what that payback's going to be. And someone tells you, you know, I think you're going to get a payback in 4.2 years. And then whoever proves that's going to happen. So the last issue is the utility bill. It is not designed to help you run your operation. So what ends up happening here is people do very little. And for a long time, that was okay. It was fine. Today, it's not okay. You don't get invited to the cocktail party as much if you're not addressing it. That's a cliche, okay? When you go to the cocktail party, are you popular or are you not popular? Because you're not addressing a serious need right now in our world. And whether you agree with that or not, your customers are caring more and more and more. So you have to demonstrate, you should be demonstrating. I would like to see you care, but you should at least be demonstrating from a business perspective that you're doing something about this part of your facility infrastructure. So I'm going to put a visual in your head for a minute. The energy infrastructure is the most ignored infrastructure in your facility. And think about it. I call it an infrastructure, a layer of stuff. And I'm going to cover with you what it involves, what that stuff involves here. Essentially, it involves a couple different categories of your facility. HVAC is a category, but HVAC is more than just heating and cooling. It's air management. Your kitchens create a ton of heat, okay? Let me give you a comparison perspective. An office building uses about $2 to $3 a square foot for electricity. Matter of fact, we've got some office buildings at $3.50 and $4. That's pretty bad when they're up that high, okay? A QSR, a small QSR that doesn't do heavy cooking is going to run between $10 and $12 a square foot. A large QSR that does a lot of cooking is going to near $18 to $22 a square foot. Nearly 10 times the density of expense use and carbon creation as an office building, which is a reason why Budderfly decided to focus on your marketplace. With a density of 10x to office buildings, we see the whole world trying to address these big office buildings. Honestly, your market, just so you know, I'm going to give you a stat. Your market, and I'm going to include casual dining and restaurants in general, are responsible for near 12 to 15% of the carbon in the commercial marketplace right now. And you're not aware of it. It's about a $15 billion a year expense when I add all of you up together, okay? And the reason why Budderfly, you can call us either crazy or we're smart, we love your industry because you have a footprint that's repeatable. It's repeatable. I know they're not exactly the same, but you typically will buy equipment that's similar from shop to shop within a brand. That enables us to make investments, and I'm going to cover that with you in a couple minutes, on a bunch of these things that you're reading right now, and get a good view of what our outcome is going to be, the ROI is going to be on that investment, okay? So I'm going to categorize for you the different areas that we focus on in that energy infrastructure. It ranges anywhere from commodities like lighting, and many of you have already addressed lighting, some of you have not. By the way, the one I love the best is the brand that decided to do the lighting in the front of house and decided not to do it in the back of house. We see that about 30 to 40% of the time. Why? Well, it's what our customer sees. But you know what? The energy doesn't care what you see, all right? Energy cares about how it operates from an efficiency perspective. Lighting is a big category. Second big category, HVAC in general, and I'm going to cover that in more detail. Refrigeration. Many of you have multiple refrigeration units. Typically, in a QSR, the large walk-ins will use 70, 80% of the refrigeration use. If you're curious and you want to ask me, I can even tell you the average mix of how much refrigeration is on your bill across many different brands, because we track the heck out of that, okay? Third, measuring things and controlling things has value. Some of you may have invested in technologies to do that, some of you may not. But understanding where those dollars and use is going is crucial to have you be able to manage that category effectively moving forward. Make sense? Okay. Source of power. What is source of power? Renewables. We're doing a big project for Sonic in Long Island. We're putting all solar on those canopies. Now we do a bunch with Inspire brands, a bunch of them. I think we do them all at this point, Rob, if I'm correct. That happens to be tailor-made because they're sitting on a canopy already. And being able to put a source of power there, we think is a big advantage. I see renewables in your industry actually on a big uptick, even though I know it's complicated. You've got a footprint of land and landscape. We've got regulatory issues, but a good percentage of them have a very, very good opportunity to be able to capitalize on that at this point. So we're also dealing with demand management. It's complicated. What demand management is you realize during the day, your equipment decides, depending on what's happening, to all run at the same time and create what's called a peak load. And if you look at your bill, about 60% of you are in a state where you get billed about a third to half of your bill is when that tachometer hits the top end. And you don't even know when that happens. You find out at the end. There's ways to manage that effectively, okay? I'm giving you all these optimization opportunities. Now you're seeing why this is complex, and frankly, why there's a 40% opportunity, because the difficulty in doing this. So Budderfly decided to go out and build a company to focus on this. And I'm going to move into a little bit on the approaches to address this problem. Make sense? And listen, I am all for if someone says, I'm going to do this myself. We have it happen all the time. 98% of your industry has done very little. Most people address this and go out and get LED lights. That's usually the action that someone takes because it's the simplest one. And frankly, the lights got old and they look like crap, and therefore my customers aren't happy. That's a big deal because you can see it, okay? But you start to get into the complexities of HVAC, refrigeration management, controls and metering, even managing the bill better, and it's a very difficult thing to do. So there are basically 4 things that we see people do. What do you think the most popular one is? It's usually the first one left to right if we're reading on the list. That most people do nothing, okay? The majority of this industry does nothing. It's the easy way out because we're not sure where to start. Second, do it yourself. Do it yourself usually translates into you selecting or picking one item that you do. I call it the guilt removal item. so that you can go home and say that I am now sustainable. It's usually LED lights. It seldom is anything more than that. Okay, we're going to talk about HVAC here in a minute on what normally happens. ESCO. Have anyone heard the term ESCO? ESCO? They were created 15, 20, 25 years ago. Think about what I'm saying. The investment, let me give you a perspective on the investment. If you spend $40,000 a year on energy, or 30, you should be spending 2 to 3x that number in capital to replace your energy infrastructure. I don't care if you do it yourself, do it with us. Someone really needs to invest in upgrading that infrastructure. And by the way, you're going to hear in a minute, there's a good payback on that. But you have to have patience, okay? And we built a company with patience. That's our advantage, and we're really, really good at it, okay? And I'm going to cover that model here in a minute. But I want to give you a perspective of how much we're talking about. And it really, honestly, requires for you to get all new lighting if you haven't done it. And if it's over 6 or 7 years old and it has been replaced, there's probably an ROI to replace it again. That's what happens. Probably all new HVAC, maybe a brand new HVAC architecture, a heat pump architecture. I'm going to cover that with you in a couple of minutes. Worst case, you walk out of here and you say, wow, there's some interesting things that that person, Al, talked about, and you want to explore it. We'll even educate you, because in the end, our model, you don't pay for anything. We pay for everything, all right? I might have piqued your interest. I'll cover that in a few minutes. So we come with money, a lot of it. And we write checks for all of our customers to do all the things that need to be done. And there's no real catch in this, and I'm going to cover that with you in a minute. And that's the furthest to the right. Now, within that EEaaS, Energy as a Service, it's a term, there are two forks in the road. There are a bunch of companies out there under that same banner that will invest but almost create a contingency around their investments that get very complicated. They're also very project-oriented, okay? Then to the right are those that are all in, and we're that. All in means we end up literally buying everything at our own risk, okay? Because we see the payback. We even basically bill it. We've created a billing model that allows us to get that return typically on about a 10-year basis. So if you know what the solar industry did to convince you to buy solar at home, they create what's called a PPA. They build it into a rate, or they spread that cost over a period of time. We've done a very similar thing, but with all that complexity, okay? We manage all of it, all right? And I'm going to cover that with you in a little more detail in a couple of minutes. I'll let you read down there. Our theory, and it's been proven out thus far, is with a market that does nothing, it has, in a world where we have to do a lot. The difference between those two are the reasons that I gave you, okay? Complexity, capital, let's put it off till tomorrow, competing capital, and I don't measure anything to even prove that I get an ROI. Budderfly built a company to do that for you in your industry, and that's what we did. It's probably why we're 110 million overnight, because obviously the value proposition is incredibly powerful. We prefer to make our return on making sure that energy gets managed effectively, and we put equipment in. I'm going to give you a couple perspectives on equipment so you can start to see the real value on this. Let's talk about HVAC for a minute. It's a fun topic. On average, the HVACs, I'm getting some smiles. I have been on more roofs than I care to share with you. It's ugly up there. It is ugly. And it's not just HVAC, it's your hoods. I'm going to give you a statistic, and we've probably now engaged with 5,000 to 10,000 locations. We have close to 5,000 customers in your market. 50% of the hoods don't work. They don't work. Did you hear that? They don't work. The hood doesn't work. All the heat in that place is doing what it does. The average age of the HVAC on the roof is between 13 and 15 years. We've got some that are 30 plus years old. I didn't even know that they were made that long ago. I'm literally shocked. HVAC units, rooftop units, are measured by a designation called SEER, S-E-E-R, or IEER. I'll say SEER just once because it's easy. There's a number that they assign to a unit. That number reflects perfectly to the efficiency level. I'm going to just give you some quick math. The average SEER level of that 13-year-old unit's about 11 or 12. They degrade on almost a predictable level. They're running at about an 8 to 9. And right now, if you go out and buy one, you're going to go out and buy a 14. Today, on a rooftop, you can go buy a 21 or a 22. 4.5 percentage points of efficiency pickup per SEER point. Do the math. 55% to 60 coming off your HVAC load to just get the right unit. Now, the world we live in right now, the manufacturers, and we know them well. We put the biggest order in with Carrier about 4 or 5 months ago. We literally got 3,000 units crossing over the border that we're installing in your market. It's the largest rollout. We had to order those with a 32-week lead time. Why? They don't make them. What do you mean they don't? They don't make them to store them. Why? Because you don't buy them. Because you don't buy them, they don't make them. So when your unit dies is the time you replace it, what do you typically do? You need one now. Well, what's the now? The now is like a 13 or 14 SEER. You're happy, you don't even think about this, and you put it on your roof. That's what you do. It's the wrong way to attack this problem, okay? It's really the wrong way to attack this problem. So we're seeing a 50 to 60% reduction in 30% of your spend. You don't even know it's 30% because you don't measure it within the bill. It's part of what we do as a science. It's important for what we do. Now, while I'm telling you all this, and Rob, how many are we installing now? We're installing 4,000 brand new HVAC units between end of June and December. We call it the Big Bang. We have a name for it within Budderfly. It's the largest rollout, and we've got all over the country, 49 different states. I've done some quick math. If you do your industry, you know how many units need to be replaced in your marketplace? It's scary. I mean, this is like wartime manufacturing that's going to have to make it. But let me change the rules of the game one more time. Heat pumps. Heat pumps. I don't know why. I was in Italy for our private equity firm. I gave a speech over there about 3 weeks ago. Heat pumps everywhere. That's all they have. Not here. We use rooftop units, packaged rooftop units. Heat pumps clearly are more efficient than rooftop units. And when we get into your hoods and we fix them, let me give you a little perspective. There are new hood technologies available right now. They have thermal sensors. They're variable speed. They're really smart. We're getting 80% energy reduction just on the hood. 50 to 60% on brand new HVAC units with a cooler space. On the heat pumps, which we're now testing aggressively in your market, we're seeing 70% energy reduction, 70. That's more than LEDs did on lighting. It's just a little complex to do. So we like to bear the brunt of that complexity. That's really what we do. Rob, how are we doing on time, if you give me a time? Okay. Let me go to the model quickly. So here's what I created the model. I did it on a whiteboard. By the way, it's my third company. I've been doing this a really long time. And we built a model that is good for you, and it gets it done. And essentially all we did is we built a billing system. We took over the billing, but you get to see the original bills. We create a baseline of what you've been using for the last couple of years. We lock it in. We hand you a discount. And energy, you get it in your pocket. So you even get to spend less. Then we go write all the checks. We buy brand new everything, okay? We put it all in. We put controllers, IoT devices. We put metering. You get access to all that data. We do it on a 10-year basis. You get to see everything. And we bear the risk of getting all that capital back, plus hopefully enough money to pay all our people to do this, because this is not a one and done. Managing this environment is complicated. We've built software and services around this. I kind of thought that was simple when I created it, and to this day, there's nobody who built a model so simple. Everybody's in that, you know, I'll give you the money, but it's like a loan, and you have to pay, and what if it doesn't, and then I'm going to come back, or you come back, and we fight over it every year. That's why people don't do anything in this marketplace. So at a very high level, $15 billion in your industry, $15 billion. The carbon out of that should come down 40%. It's probably the single largest carbon free-up in this country, in your industry, if someone would just do something about it, and that's why we created this model with very little to no friction. We also maintain all that equipment, and we warranty the whole thing for 10 years. No more CapEx for broken compressors. We take care of all that. Because you've had a hard time doing that, and that's been obvious to us as we've been on all your roofs. I will apologize to those that have done a good job. There are a few that do care and do focus really well, but most people are worried about you serving your customer in your restaurant, which is what I believe you should be worried about, which is why we exist. So that's a very quick capital preservation. It's our capital, not yours. By the way, accounting-wise, non-balance sheet item for you. Non-balance sheet. And there's even an out clause. So if you think 10 years is a long time, we allow you out. There's a very simple buyout model, okay? The goal here is to get it done, make your operation a lot better, and we bring green. We have a new definition of what green is, and we move quickly in a complicated market that was not moving quickly before and was pretty much a do-it-yourself or do-nothing marketplace and industry. Obviously, reducing carbon footprint means a lot in today's world. I think I got 2 minutes left. So I think what I'm going to do at this point, maybe 2 minutes if you have any questions at all, and if you don't, I think we're close to the end anyway. I'll make a few closing remarks. But I have no idea if I've piqued your interest. Put Budderfly aside. I would love nothing more than all of you to do something. That's really what the objective is. We have plenty of market opportunity in your space for us to go after. And we spend money quickly. You'd be surprised at what we do because we really have made a science out of returns on investment in this space. That's really what it's about. And we're long-term thinkers. That's the way our organization is set up. Any questions that anybody may have? Comments?
So we own a couple restaurants, and I recently just changed over a lot of our HVAC at all of them.
Yep.
Made the investment and all that. So if we were to use you guys, which we actually entertained before I flipped one out and did Captive Air is the route that we went.
Yep.
So is that off the table? Because I already invested the Captive Air aside, but the other locations that I went and flipped and did brand new HVAC over there, is that off the table?
And what did you do? Do you know what you put in for SEER level or you don't know?
As far as one of the locations we did
Probably
10 and an 8 and 2 6s, I think, over Princess Anne.
On tons. That's tons.
Yes, yep.
So a couple things. And I'm an open book. I believe in my heart of hearts, we're testing 20 locations on a heat pump DOAS, okay,
Yeah.
dedicated outside air system.
Yep.
There are very few, if any, in your entire industry, and we're doing them now. And love to state, you got 2 DOAS systems, and you like them, I bet.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean,
You're one of the few. You ought to get in the front page of a magazine.
We just had an issue this past week that we're handling, that I was handling.
Well, listen, we're in the new part of this
Yeah.
marketplace, but the results of the DOAS model is 70% off traditional.
Yeah.
I can only answer that question, and we're quick on survey. We do them for free. We look at business case, and we mostly say yes, but sometimes we will say no, that you've done enough.
Yeah.
Right. Not to put you off on that, but I am a believer that heat pumps are coming. I really am, and we plan on driving the heck out of that. We got all the big. Another weird thing, the U.S. manufacturers don't make them. Like, why? Because you never bought them, so they decided not to make them. It sounds like General Motors, Ford, and Tesla to me. Elon had to go make the electric car before anyone bought them, right, to get ahead of the game, and everybody chased later. Question?
Yeah, you talked a bit about electricity, but what about gas? Do you deal with gas also?
We do deal with gas. I'm going to have to say to you, gas is becoming a 4-letter word. Put aside whether you believe that or not. It doesn't matter. I'm a jungle market-driven CEO. I do what I need to do. So we will strive over. It's killing me right now. We just bought 3,000 HVAC units with gas heat. Killing me. Now I'm not going to buy 30, 40,000 because 7 years from now that's still going to be gas. So we're going to try to electrify. I don't know if you did that with your DOAS model. We're going to try to electrify. And I think you have to. And as part of that electrification, we got to figure out how we get an EV charger network model in your environment. I do believe your market, some of you will do some of that in your parking lots, okay? There's some cool tech out there for that. Just FreeWire makes a battery-driven one. That's got almost 10 Tesla batteries in it. And the beauty of that is you don't have to upgrade your infrastructure. That's the hard part, is making the big panel changes, which is a pain. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
I think so.
yeah. Other questions or comments? I think I'm probably over my limit a little bit. Listen, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd like to talk to you after.
Yeah, absolutely. We have plenty of capital. We've raised about $500 million, most recently with Partners Group. They're a very green, sustainable vision private equity firm. Been a terrific partner of ours, by the way. And, but listen, I founded it, but I'm pretty hands-on, as you could probably tell. And we keep that sort of entrepreneurial spirit in our now 230 people. And, but we're here to make a difference, and we love spending money on your locations. That's what we do. That's what we do best. Well, listen, thank you. This is, hopefully the sessions are productive for all of you, even from a networking, but just content perspective. And I'm hoping at least you walk away with some thoughtful content from this discussion. I think it's a really crucial area now. It has been an ignored area in your marketplace. And honestly, it needs to rise to the surface. The irony, you feed people and keep them alive, and you're throwing 40% waste out in the air at the same time. Just bugs me. So we're here to do something about it. Thank you. Appreciate it.